welcome back. We are here. It's the 9th hour today. This is probably a marathon for some of you who have been here all day with us, so thank you for that. We are joined by Kiley Williams. This is a talk you don't want to miss. Diversity sucks. I love that title, but it's very important because he's going to talk about why it actually sucks and how it actually thwarts cyber criminals, because there's a lot to be said about diversity in a broad sense, but also in the technical implementation. But in a very much important way, diversity and how it plays itself out in a lot of areas of life. So with that, Kiley Williams is joining us. He's an entrepreneur. He started a couple of businesses. He's been in security for a number of years. And the stage is yours, my friend. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you, Jonathan. Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I can hear you perfectly.
Excellent.
Loud and clear.
Great, thank you. Well, hello everyone, I'm Kiley Williams. I have about 20 years in the software development and architecture space. I'm a former security architect. I'm now the director of sales engineering at HelpShift Inc. in San Francisco, California, and we work on hyperscale automation there. So I am no longer, as of last month, in the security space, but I have a broad background in security. I came to talk to you about that today. So what's up with the title of this talk? Now, I know everyone's asking, why would he say that diversity sucks? So diversity sucks. It does suck. But the question is, for whom? It sucks for hackers. Hackers. Diversity sucks for hackers. It's probably the worst thing that a hacker can encounter, aside from law enforcement and getting caught and all that. But we'll cover the reasons why diversity sucks for a hacker later. First, let's understand the current climate of technology. So we only have about 25, 30 minutes, so we're going to move quickly. I'm going to make sure that we go back to basics and we stay high level. We're going to go a little bit deep, but everyone should be able to follow along. And I'm happy to field questions later. I'm happy to respond to emails. You can tweet me, all of that. And I will give you my information at the end of this presentation. So by the end of this, though, you'll have a much better understanding of cybersecurity if you're not an expert already, and a few ideas on how to up your game against hackers, hopefully. We'll cover who the adversaries are, who the actual attackers are, because they are sometimes and often different, what the adversaries want, who and what the targets are, and how they are launching these attacks. So first, who are the adversaries? You have organized crime, you have nation states being any country, any sovereign nation. They're attacking each other. And mind you, there aren't really any completely good people and completely bad nation states. Everyone's doing good and bad in the cyber world. There obviously are some bad ones, but everyone's doing a mix of what everyone else is doing. A lot of time because they're hiring the same people, or they're using the same people and using the same tools. Now, you also have companies that are playing dirty. These are companies that will attack another company because maybe a launch is coming up and they don't want that launch to actually happen. And then sometimes you have bad individuals wanting to do bad things. And so we're going to cover more of that. But remember, these are the adversaries. These are the people or the organizations that have the money. So who are the actual hackers? The actual hackers tend to be the people who are pay to play. I call them cyber mercenaries or tech mercenaries. They don't care who the target is. Pay them enough, they're going to go attack it. And so there are organizations that are essentially underworld corporations that will sell you a weaponized virus for anywhere from 10K to 10 million. And you can find stuff for less than 10K, but you're going to get some unreliable things. But think about that. Someone can use a weaponized computer virus and acquire one for $10,000. That's not that much. And a virus like that can wreak havoc, billions of dollars of damage. It can make lives be lost. It can cause all types of issues. And there's also another set of hackers are curious or upset individuals who have a bone to pick. You might think of cyber terrorists or just random kids in their basement that think something's funny and playing a prank. So what do they actually want? Everyone is looking for an easy way to successfully compromise a wide range of targets. Now, what I mean by that is they can press one button and then everything falls out the sky. That's kind of what, think about the Matrix or whatever it might be. That's what a lot of people think that hacking is. And honestly, if you build the right virus and the right worm, it can have a very similar effect to press a button and everything breaks. Now, a big motivator for for hackers is money. whether it's a business, whether it's a one of the corporations that are funding the cyber espionage or the cyber attack, or whether or not it's an individual, or whether it might be an organized crime unit. They want money. Now think about this: if someone attacks someone else, they get a certain amount of money. It might be fraud, it might be ransomware, which means they hold you ransom, they hold your information ransom, and you pay them. Think about that. Some people get paid. I've had friends that have lost $12,000 in one instance because they thought they were lending someone money and it really was a hacker. It costs $2,800 on the street, on certain streets, for an AK-47. $2,800. So think about how much that $12,000 might have funded for a nefarious actor. Now, there's also drugs. There's all types of things that people use this money for because it's stolen. Now, some countries will actually use it to fund their weapons programs. And so you can guess who those might be, but we won't touch on that. Different talk. So intellectual property is another motivator. Think about what's going on right now. Who is going to be, or whose stock is going to go up massively if they are the first ones that come out with a vaccine? Think about that. If you have the best hacker in the world and you know that company over there is going to beat you to the vaccine, why not have that best hacker go and take that intellectual property? Or why not take music? What if you're coming up with a new song, or you're coming up with a new recipe, and why not go and take that? Those are all viable and valid methods or ways that people are looking to use attacks. Now, also, there's a sad part of sometimes people just want to hurt someone. And there are things you can do to shut down systems, turn off air, turn off ventilation, that could actually kill people or cause irreparable damage to something, to a system, to a space shuttle, to a satellite, those types of things. So what are the targets? Let's look at some examples here. Individuals, for financial reasons, obviously people are targeted every day. Now, businesses also, they're targeted for financial reasons, but for corporate espionage, as I just mentioned. Again, think about the vaccine or the key to a vaccine being stolen, the information that's not yet patented, maybe. There are more targets. Think about schools. Think about this. What if an attacker was able to gain access to the school and schedule information and the locations of Bill Gates' children or Elon Musk's children? What kind of craziness could that cause? They could get entire major corporations to completely turn on a dime because they're holding someone's kid or because they know where someone's kid is going to be. Museums, here's an interesting one. Yes, people want to change or erase the records of history out of museums. So, for example, the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., they experience multiple cyber attacks each day. And those cyber attacks are usually from organized Holocaust denial groups. These are people that denied the Holocaust even happened, and so they're attacking the Holocaust Museum to try to get rid of stuff there. So this is what's really going on in the real world. Now, critical infrastructure. What is critical infrastructure? It's another interesting one. This is water, this is energy, and now listen to this one. This is also grocery stores. Think about if someone was able to hack the refrigeration system in a grocery store and all the food all of a sudden went bad, especially in a time like this. What's going to happen? Chaos. Chaos could happen. And so these are things that people are attacking. Now, you may have heard Jonathan mention in the last session that there are 500 million attacks every day against critical infrastructure in some countries, in some extremely advanced countries. 500 million attacks. That's insane. And lastly, as far as targets go, nations. You have nations launching warfare against one another through computers because they know if they can knock out the computers, they can knock out guidance systems or missile fire control systems. I'll say it again. A missile fire control system. That means a system that is controlling where that missile is pointing and where it's shooting. If you can take over that, well, that missile is going to go up and come right back down. These are things that are real, that are really happening out there that need protection. So why does diversity come into this? Well, let's flip it on its head. Let's talk about homogeneity. Homogeneity, let's take some numbers here. It costs an average of $1, count it, $1 to acquire a cybercrime kit. Now, that could be a bunch of things, but on average, $1. Now, cyber attacks cost businesses an average of $13 million each year. So $1 versus $13 million. And these cyber criminals have lots of money. So scale that up. $13 million they spend, it's going to cost you that 13 times 13 over here, 13 million. It's going to be trillions of dollars in costs. Now, 66% of Americans have been exposed to attacks. I think this is a conservative number, but we're just going to go with real numbers here. But 66% of Americans have been exposed to attacks. And 31% of security professionals have been breached themselves. These are experts. These are people who know what they're doing, who are security professionals, who might be hackers themselves. They've been breached. They've been breached. And I'll tell the story. I was breached in college. When I was on my graduation day, someone popped up a message on my computer and it said, "Great job over these last 8 years. They've been watching me. Great job over these last 8 years. I'm excited to see what you do in the future, and I'll keep watching." My machine I thought was secure, but someone clearly had been watching. And so experts get hacked. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I knew what I was doing at the time. And so now, this is a big number here. There was $1.5 trillion in profits for the cybercrime economy. They profited $1.5 trillion. You saw the US government just had a full day and arguments, all that, to figure out what to do with $1.5 trillion. These are criminals that just got $1.5 trillion. So how is this possible? It's craziness. So now we're going to talk about diversity and homogeneity. So let's start here. Passwords. Take a moment, think about your passwords. Now, some of you are going to be cybersecurity experts. You're going to have a password manager. But most people, and I'm going to say, actually, give you the real number here, 60% of people use the same password across multiple devices. Now get this, 95% of people are sharing passwords among one another in an insecure manner. That's 95% of people. They're sharing passwords. Think about yourself, how many passwords you might have. Maybe you have 2 or 3, but are they shared across different services? What about your PIN number for your credit card or your bank card? Are those different or are they the same? If you drop your PIN card or you drop your bank card, or if someone swipes it and clones it and they know your PIN number, what's going to happen there? So most people use the same 2 to 3 passwords and PIN numbers for all of their accounts. And that's how you were able to see, that's how we've seen celebrities getting hacked and people like that getting hacked, because they use the same password across all of their accounts. So now, one more piece of information, 50% of companies are allowing their employees to access everything. That means there's no control. You get in there, there's a bunch of files everywhere. So now we're sharing passwords, you have access to everything, and now someone types in their password in the wrong field or in a chat window on Facebook, a hacker, or not even a hacker, some person who's curious gets it, they just guess the password is going to work over here, and it does. Again, think back, you've got Gmail, you've got Hotmail. Is your password the same for your Facebook, for your other accounts? Is your Gmail and Hotmail passwords the same? What about logging into your computer? Is that password the same as your password for Gmail? Think about that stuff. That's homogeneity. That means everything is the same across all these places, all these systems. Now, yes, again, you might have 2 or 3 different passwords that you use across these things, but that's not much diversity when you really think about it. So let's take a step into the world of hackers. We're going to go down this kind of slippery slope for a moment. Phishing. Why is this important? Why this is important because I'm going to talk about how it's possible that someone gets your password. Now, someone can craft a Bank of America. Let's say you're Bank of America or Chase. They can craft a fake bank website. You go to that website and you say, "Oh, this is a real website. I'm going to type in my username and password." You type it in. It sends that off via email or whatever to the hacker. The hacker now has it. And now the hacker only has to guess, okay, so their name was this, their email address was this, and now they typed in this password. Chances are they have a 60% chance, according to our numbers, that your password is going to be the same. So they're just going to go trolling around the web, and then they're going to get in. First, they're going to get into your bank accounts and hang around in there. Then they're going to go get into your other stuff. And then they're going to start locking you out of your bank accounts and all of those things. And that's how identity theft happens. That's how people lose tons of money. That's phishing. Phishing is when someone phishes. They send an email hoping to get someone to bite. They're going to get someone to bite. They always do. And then they're hoping that that's a big fish, and they hope they reel it in. And once they reel it in, then they've got them. And so just remember that. Now, security is not all about, so we're going to jump back up to security. It's not all about, let me stop everything from happening. What it's really about is containing the blast radius. You're never going to stop 100% of attacks. You're not, because that's just unrealistic. What you can do is contain the blast radius. So oftentimes security is really seen as, if you can't stop everything, then why even have it at all? But really think about it. If one of your passwords gets compromised and you use the same password across all your accounts, then you're in big trouble. But what if your password was different for every single account that you had? Think about that. If your password was different for every single account, then they would only get into one account. Maybe they get into your bank account, but you can contain that blast. Maybe they might drain your funds, but your bank will have insurance and you'll get that back. And so that right there, but if they get into your email address, or they get into your email account, and they get into all these different things everywhere, then all of a sudden you're going to have a really big problem trying to work your way back against that attacker who now has stolen your identity. So back to diversity and why it sucks for hackers. All right, hackers, here's what happens. Hackers build their attacks based on an assumption that targets will be homogenous. There's a whole movie about it called Ocean's 11, 12, whatever else, right? Whole movie about that. They're like, okay, we know exactly how it's built. We're going to construct an entire replica, practice against it, and then we're going to go to the real thing and breach it. And so take, for example, the Honda Civics that were built in the 90s. If you had one, it was probably stolen at least once. So my uncle's were stolen. And so a few of my friends were stolen. They were cool cars, but they were easy to steal because people knew exactly how to steal them, and they were flawed, or the security was flawed. Now, the adversaries knew that, and they knew if they could break into one, they could break into them all. So I'm going to pause right there and tell you a story about a 14-year-old kid that was living in Maryland. His name may or may not rhyme with Kiley Williams. And he built replicas. He would build replicas of things for friends to go and hammer away against. Now, that was because we didn't want to get in trouble. I said we. Well, now cat's out of the bag. That's because the friends and we didn't want to get in trouble for this. But what was really happening was I would go dumpster diving. I would go find something in a dumpster, a computer in a dumpster, not something, a computer in a dumpster. I would hook it up, and then I'd say, all right, it runs. I can build a replica. I was able to build an entire replica of a bank system back then with 3 machines, 3 computers that I got out of dumpsters. And yeah, they were kind of, they were slow and everything, but we built an entire replica of a bank's web access system, web application, through a massive East Coast bank through that. And we found vulnerabilities that we in turn then were able to report to them, and they gave us gift cards for reporting them. So kind of a not great trade-off, but that's what can happen. A 17-year-old, 16-year-old, a 12-year-old can go and build this stuff because they have all the time in the world. And they can build a replica. Now, if they really want to be bad, if you get some good people out there that are really good at programming, and they build a real replica, crazy replica, and they can go and hammer away against this thing, then you're going to end up with attacks that work because everything is the same today. Remember when I was talking about homogeneity, everything that's out there, all the technology that's being built is using the same underlying platform, everything. And so you might say, hey, well, I'm using an Android and this is an iPhone. At the very core of this at the very base layer of the operating system, there are some core pieces of functionality that act and work the same. And so I can dive into that a bit later, but we're going to keep it a little bit high level for now. So back to diversity. It's really great for the defender. It's truly a great thing for the defender. So taking your last example, what if every Honda Civic ended up being different? So the car thieves would spend tons of their time practicing to steal a car. But then they'd have to spend all that same time hacking and working on the next car and the next car, as opposed to saying, oh, I figured out this one car, it all works the same. They're going to have to carry different tools. They're just going to give up. They're going to say, you know what, I don't have time for this. Think about your passwords. If someone keeps trying your one password across all your different services and it's not working, well, then all of a sudden you end up with something that the attacker says, you know what, this sucks. I don't want to deal with this. It's too diverse. That's where diversity sucks comes in. It really sucks when a hacker has to spend a great amount of time on each and every single device. Now, let's take another example, email addresses. Now, I can't see you raise your hands, but I want you to sit back and think, how many email addresses do you really have? Do you have one email address? Do you use that one email address across all these different services? I did for a long time. But then what started happening was spam started hitting that one email address. And then I try to clean it up, and I can't clean it up because obviously everyone's reached, all the hacks are out there. My email address has been lost like 30 times. So now your email address is out there in the wild. But how do you know who lost your email address? How do you know any of that? Well, your email address is now compromised, so now you have to go create a new one. Most people have a spam email address, and now they have a new one. And then when that one gets compromised, they then create another one. I personally have an email address for every single service that I use, every service. So if one service gets breached, then I know, and I contact those people and say, hey, I received an email from Sears, but I really was, this is my Best Buy email address. What happened here? And dig deeper, that's a phishing email. And now you can say, all right, this email address is compromised, but all my other ones still work. So think about that. That's one way to thwart hackers and phishing and spammers, is by having a different email address for every service. Now, there are ways to do that that don't make it very hard for you. You can use a plus sign in your email address. If you look that up, you can do, let's say, for example, Kiley plus bestbuy@williams.com. That's one way to go and thwart hackers, because now that's going to be your specialized email address. And so again, that's diversity. That's diversifying your email address. There's diversifying your phone number. I give out a different phone number based on who the person is. There are very, very, very few people who have my emergency number. And then there are a little bit more people that have my normal number. There's a few more people that have my social number. And then there's a lot of people that have my regular number. And then there's a number beyond that is I just hand out when I go to conferences. And it'll still route its way to me, but I generally send it over to voicemail and make them jump through a few hoops before they talk to me. That's diversity again. Now, that's a little bit more difficult to do, but at the same time, I know that I'm a target for a lot of spam, a lot of that type of stuff. So remember, diversity completely derails a hacker's foothold. Now, that's not just diversity of technology. The benefits of that we just saw. We saw that you can thwart an attack. When an attacker is targeting a system and says, hey, I found this one thing that I can hack, and I know it'll work across 2 billion devices. Think Java. Java is what powers Android phones. It's what powers some things on the web. It powers a lot of things. If they find a hole in Java, they can compromise billions of devices at once, in one go, with a worm, with a virus. And so if those were all unique, think about if you can make software unique, and you can. I won't touch on the individual pieces of technology, but you can reach out to me and I can share that with you. But you can make diversity or technology diverse. And so when an attacker attacks something, instead of having 100% chance of that thing working, they now have a 1 out of 8 quadrillion chance. I don't have a whiteboard, but that's a lot of zeros. 1 out of 8 quadrillion probability that the attack works, as opposed to today's 100% that it will work. So now there's a few other pieces of diversity that I want to touch on before I go. Diversity of people. The more diverse your team is, the better. You're going to have someone come in and say, hey, why are we going to the left? Why didn't we go to the right? And you're going to have people say, wow, I didn't think about that. I didn't even see that thing over there. They just had tunnel vision. And that just happens. It doesn't mean that these people were wrong or right or whatever it may be. It's another way of thinking. It's diversity of thought. It's diversity of people. So now, diversity of thought. The difference in thinking, welcoming new ideas. Again, you might hear Jonathan, the reason why Saya is over in Japan and working really hard to make sure that the diversity of thought is welcomed up the management chain, is because it's important to welcome these new ideas. There's people that are going to come bring new ideas, fresh ideas, new blood, as some people call it, and they'll say, look, why didn't we do it this way? That's how new companies get built. That's how new ideas come to fruition. Why didn't we try this? Why didn't we try that? Oh, we tried 400 things and they didn't stick. Let's try 401. Oh, that one stuck and that one's winning. So remember, diversity of technology, diversity of people, diversity of thought. And one key point I want to touch on is there are only 20% of the workforce in cybersecurity is women. Now, out of all the teams and the groups that I saw, when women cybersecurity specialists were there, man, they killed it. They were amazing. And so we need to do more to get women into the world of cybersecurity. And now, in addition to that, people of color, we need to do more to get those people into the world of cybersecurity. It's diversity is really what it's all about. The more diverse we can be, the better we can be, and the more protected that we can be against attacks. So let's work together, and let's work together to make hackers say diversity sucks. So thank you for listening to me. You can reach me at Kiley, Kiley, Williams.com. My Twitter is Kiley W, so KILEYDUBYA, kind of like W. Bush. So again, KileyWilliams.com. You can reach me. You can find my information there. You can reach out to me on any of the social media platforms, and I'm happy to connect with you. LinkedIn is probably best. I check that the most. And again, thank you for listening to me. And I would love for everyone to work with me to make hackers say diversity sucks.